what it is, what it do, what it done did. Check this out. I'm gonna get right into it. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to go directly in on carbon and what I have discovered and its ability, and why some of the channels would say something like why haven't carbon nanotubes or something in that vicinity taken over solar and all the power it is, or whatever. You know, they have little videos and clips, and it says that they don't understand why it hasn't taken over. Now, what I have come to understand real quick though, carbon, all right, carbon is the same thing that's found in your water purifiers, your fish tank aquarium. Activated charcoal is carbon, all right? Carbon in the fish tank, we know, will clean the water, right? Now, I found out that the carbon has small little pores on it, and it can hold and snatch any type of ion out of the air or out of the water, all right? Possibly out of the fire, all right? Now, nevertheless, and of course, out of the wind. Now, the carbon holds a lot. It has micro like ridges, like our hair. It has micro ridges, all right? And it can pull electrostatic ions, depending on their use and what else you have on the body, you know. Nevertheless, and it appears to be more studied to find out exactly. But here is the 9-yard kicker. When you look at a solar cell, when you look inside of it, like, you can actually see something that looks like activated charcoal, activated carbon inside of the things, all right? High voltage capacitors. You know, a capacitor, when you take it loose, if you take one of those capacitors loose that's in a radio or a Maxwell capacitor, you know, or any big capacitor, take it loose and you'll find out it's carbon inside of it. Now, these things hold megavolts, right? High voltage. Current will kill you, but high voltage won't. The body accepts high voltage, AC, high voltage, fluctuations, all right? So, nevertheless, not current, okay? You can take 12 volts or 110 volts and make 75,000 kilowatts voltage applied. All right. Now, understand this though. Now, what are we doing here? Well, let me go a little bit further with the carbon. Now, the carbon has the ability to snatch the hydrogen molecule, all right? And in the process of the carbon snatching the hydrogen molecule out of the rays of the sun, it instantly converts it to electricity, because we know that's what the solar cell does. It instantly goes through the process of energy electronics, or no, what is that? Electrolysis. So electronicologist, all right? However, all right, just trying to get your mind to go in that state. Now, hear it again. Carbon, through a dielectric and whatever else it has, right? It's carbon based. It has the ability to snatch the hydrogen molecule out of the sun ray and convert it instantly into electricity. Did you hear that? Okay. What am I saying? Start putting carbon inside of some of your organ accumulators, all right? Because carbon can snatch, all right? And once you put a polymer over it, it can't be disrupted, all right? It will hold that energy and hold that energy alone. Now, what I did, I used my Van de Graaff generator, you know, and you know the electrolysis to throw the negative electrons. Check this out. If you put black carbon in it, all right, it will pull the negative ions and boost the generator itself. Listen, but I didn't use my my Van de Graaff generator for the high chromial sparks. I had went and bought a smaller version of 110 volt that you plug up to like an air purifier ion generator, right? But I only bought the circuit, right, which was the ion generator itself, and then it just goes up 2 wires and a fan be behind it, and they sell it to you for like $79 or whatever, but you could buy the circuit for simply $8 or $4, all right? So nevertheless, so I plugged that up, and it gives you like 3,000 or 7,000 volts, all right? So nevertheless, 3,000, 7,000 volts, all right? Not amperage. You know, the amperage would be very, very low. The current would be very, very low. But the voltage would be very, very, very high. High voltage, all right? Now, nevertheless, so when you put it together, you see the little, very tiny sparks. On my Van de Graaff, you know, you see like 2-inch sparks, all right? Nevertheless, so I took that one, and I checked it and made sure it worked, because it clears and purifies the air in an instant. You know, fill up a cup or something and put the ion thing up under it, put some smoke in it, let an incense or candle or whatever smoke goes up inside of it, and close it down, and within very little time, it would take the air and clear that air out, all right? So nevertheless, that's how you know how strong it is. If it takes long, then you know it's weak. Nevertheless, so anyway, I put it on this, and I shot or charged this up with negative electrons, all right? And since it's in a polymer, it will hold it, all right? It will hold it. You don't have to worry about having to change it, because there's nothing else coming in it, and it will hold it. Charcoal, carbon is darkness, is ability to hold, absorb the energy, all right? And it will keep and hold the energy. And this here will manifest energy out. Nevertheless, so carbon has the ability to snatch hydrogen molecules out of the air and instantly transmit it to energy through a solar cell. All right, now let's look at the darkness for a minute. You know, scientifically, I understand a little bit more about the darkness simply by looking at the wave band. Hold on. All right, now simply by looking at the wave band, the visible spectrum of light, what's in the visual spectrum, right, is everything that they show you when you look it up. But outside the visible spectrum, okay, the infrared and then the ultraviolet, we go into, you know, gamma and everything over here, then we go into something else over here, all right? But nevertheless, that's in the darkness. Can't be seen, all right, in the light spectrum. So where there's light, you see all those rays. Where there's darkness, you see all other rays, right? You see the darkness, to me, in concept-wise, through scientific view, all right, and through a pseudo type of way, you have no other choice but to say the darkness is all unseen. I wrote it down. It's all unseen energies in abundant raw form of gamma rays and X-rays, and however else that lays in those realms of darkness. Complete. That's why the darkness is powerful. I understood something about these dracons, or what is it, Draculas, or vampires. Okay, listen. Why did they evade the sun, but went straight to the darkness, went straight to the gamma rays? They slept in caskets. They made sure that the light did not penetrate them, so they could snatch all the unseen energies in the abundant raw form of gamma rays and X-rays. They tell us we need to be in total darkness, but these ones were in total darkness, basically, right? How did the gamma rays and the X-rays affect them, according to the mythology or the vampireology in the movie? They had powers. They had much powers, right? And it wasn't coming from no solar energies. It was coming from the darkness. It was coming from the gamma rays and it was coming from carbon. All right? They was drawing it from the darkness. Now you say, well, their body can't draw. What? If they can't accept the sun, and there's only two polarities, then you understand they can actually be affected. But look how it affected them. Now, you are the whole in totality. You are the solar as well as the darkness. All right? You know that's where you came from. The darkness, triple darkness, total darkness. A seed has to be planted in triple darkness in order for it to grow. And it don't grow up first, it grows down first. That's why the sine wave goes down first and up and down first. When you build a house, you dig a hole first. You have to lay for a foundation. You have to make platform. It have to go a certain length into the ground. This is the ignorance of us growing up. You must go down first. You must go to hell first and then to come up. You know, you must go through halls of learning that digs a hole for yourself in order for you to get the fuck out of there. All right? Nevertheless, so this darkness surrounds an idea. Remember, the brain is encased in darkness. It's not seeing a damn thing. It's responding to what? Signals that we accept the terms and conditions of these signals. You don't have to accept the terms and conditions of these signals when working on self now, all right? Nevertheless, the carbon extracts ions. It can extract pollens from the air. It can extract viruses from the air. What is negative ions? Negative ions is an air molecule with an extra ion or electron, an extra electron, all right? The air molecule has been given an extra electron, all right? Which, in microscopic type of way, they crowd or overshadow the pollens that's in the air, the viruses in the air, the smoke that's in the air, and clobbers them, or surrounds them, or engulfs them and brings them down because it makes them heavy and it falls to the ground. All right? It does not stay in the air. It falls to the ground. This is a negative ion generator. Creates, they say ogon, okay? Ozone, all right? Nevertheless, it has the ability to attack pollen, mold spores, what they call it when you live in a city and it's got fog and, you know, that type of shit. It attacks and pulls it down to the ground, and it grounds it out, pulls it out the air. It purifies the air, all right? It purifies the air. You have what? You have a negative electron carbon device that can be charged when you go back home. Just sit it in front of your negative ion purifier, or put it in coronal discharge reach of a negative ion generator, and you will find that to be known as a Van de Graaff generator, and it would charge this up. They used to sell cards, and I had got one that came with a necklace, or a bracelet, and it was charged up. It says 3,000 K volts of negative ion charge. You're supposed to keep the card in your wallet and you wear the bracelet. But this is what you could do to your own if you put carbon in it. Activated charcoal, activated carbon. Now when you take activated carbon in the capsules, all right, it has the ability, now listen, in the medical profession, what they do is, when you get poisoned, all right, that's what they give you in the hospitals. Activated charcoal, activated carbon. The same thing that clears the water in the fish tank. The same thing that snatches on ions, snatches up certain ions. It will snatch up the toxins in the body, like that. That's what they use for poison. Why don't you keep a little activated charcoal on you? right? Of course, of course. All right. Now, nevertheless, it'd be in a clear liquid form that they use in the what's the name, but that's just a way for you not to know what it is. Nevertheless, look it up, Google it, look at the research. It's there. It's there. All right. Now, nevertheless, so this carbon has multitudes of ability. Now, what we keep saying carbon, what is carbon though? They say, what is the most abundant thing in the universe? I'm about to burn up some stuff. Hold on. What is the most abundant element in the universe? It is said to be hydrogen. Right? Hydrogen. It is said to be hydrogen. All right? Hydrogen also increases consciousness. Hydrogen also increases consciousness. Did you hear that? I've showed you how to make hydrogen, but that's not a good way. I have made a few things about hydrogen generators, and I don't have the videos now. But hydrogen generators, look it up. Easy to make, simple. You can make it real easy with a 9-volt battery and two paper clips and a cup of water. All right, it makes hydrogen, a small amount of hydrogen comes up, all that. Hydrogen, increase the hydrogen intake. See, a lot of times we think we need it in minerals. Well, air is the electromagnetism. It puts ions on the smoke. All right, that's why we used to sit in certain things. Like they'll tell us a sweat lodge is what it is. But is it what it is? Or was we told that's what it was? They put coal in there. They put activated charcoal and burn it in these sweat lodges. They go in and burn out toxins because the smoke, not only the sweat from the heat, but the smoke goes in through the lungs, cleans the lungs, comes out in the pores. And not only that, it has no choice but to snatch the toxins and the poisons out of the body. Sweat lodge, right? Burning charcoal, activated carbon, right? All right? Yes. The carbon is all the unseen energies in abundant raw form of gamma rays and X-rays. X-rays, the darkness is full of X-rays. So when you close your eyes, you are seeing through the veil in which is seen when you open them. You can see through this. Now, expound and do what you do on that. Nevertheless, so remember, medical professionals use carbon to pour toxins. Science use carbon. They say carbon nanotubes is the strongest thing that they have, and the lightest that they could even come across, right? That's what we're told. Nevertheless, let's go with that. Carbon, light, is used in the solar cell. The solar cell has the ability to transfer hydrogen from a light source from the sun directly, because it is no electronics in the solar cell. It just automatically, naturally, perfectly, biokinetically, outstandingly creates electricity. And the funny thing about it is, though, it can create current. Current. Right? Not only voltage, but current. So, these are some things I wanted to throw at you. Throw at anybody who has ears to hear. All right? Now, I want you to check this out too. What is toner in a laser jet printer? What is toner? What is toner? It's carbon. And some of it have iron, oxide, mixed into the carbon. The iron oxide. What is iron oxide? Iron oxide is what appears on iron when set in oxygen for too long. Oxidation. Iron oxide, oxidation. Oxygen and iron creates what we know as rust. Red iron oxide, dust. So, once again, toner is activated carbon, charcoal, powder, mixed with iron oxide, rust, all right? So you have a carbon with iron in it. Have you ever seen this movie called Spectral? Okay, in this movie Spectral, it starts off with the guy, the scientist that works for whatever. He's going around trying to find this certain thing. And I forget the name of it, but look up Spectral. It comes on directly on this turn, and it goes in, he's looking for some tetracene, I think it was. All right, something like that, if that's not it. When you see the movie, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So nevertheless, he goes to a junkyard and he finds a printer. They don't say what type of printer, but he finds a printer and he takes it out, tetracene. So he goes back to the laboratory and they said, did you find it? He said, yeah, I found it. He said, I found it in like the hood area. And he said, what did you find? Some gangbangs that was selling tetracene? He said, no, in a junkyard out of a printer. He said it was in the 97 or some shit like that. 97, year 97 or something. So nevertheless, he put it in this thing. He calculated some lenses from cameras, and he had this machine they was calculating it, and they put this in that, shot a laser through it, and it blew up a block of ice this big. All right. Now I don't really know what that was about and shit, but it called for some shit, a toner that had carbon. All right. And now this is only what they used to use, which is iron oxide in it, but I'm not sure which one he got, and it made a distinct 1997 used in a certain type of printer. It's on this shit. Nevertheless, I'm using these as references to understand what they're using it for, all right? What its capabilities is, under current, all right? They have to use current to run these damn machines. You only need high voltage, the biochemical structure of its original form and its rawest form. Now, am I saying to energize and weaponize? No. What I'm saying to you is what you can activate in yourself is your own distinct powers. You understand? Now, this sounds so far-fetched, and outside it's like closing eyes and x-ray and seeing beyond this veil to see what the hell, what I'm saying and how it smells. You know what I'm saying? You just got to be there. You know what I mean? You got to understand something about this. If this is an illusion, and if you have to believe and have to lie in things, then choose what you use in order to sustain what it is you want to maintain. All right. Nevertheless, we move forward and forth. Check this out. Not forth, but yeah. Anyway, so now along this story, or along this movie, or along this legend, or along this promorphosized energy spectrum, all right, down within the movie, it goes and gets into a place that they find these small kids that was hiding in this warehouse, like factory type of deal, and their father was working in ceramics. He worked in ceramics. What's ceramics? Mica, silica, Silicon Valley. What is ceramics? What is a transformer that you see on those poles made out of ceramic? What is it? It is a dialectic. It is a dialectic that's between two or around carbon, copper. Remember, in order to make electricity, it's only two things that's used, and they're experimenting on how to use these two, which is magnets moving through copper makes electricity. Listen, magnets through copper creates electricity. That's how the power plants does it on a mass scale. Magnets through copper makes electricity. The magnet goes through the copper pipe slow, and as it's going down slow, it's creating electricity. Remember those wells that go like this? Those things that pull up well, make oil wells or whatever. Now, if you took a copper pipe, right, and you put force on that magnet, because you got the well operated like this, right? And you got a big copper pipe, a big magnet, and it's going like this, it will create electricity, right? It would create electricity. Boom, just like that. Now, nevertheless, you're working with current, not high voltage. So, nevertheless, okay, that's how the power plants make it. Keep it in mind. Nevertheless, at the end, as I was saying, the little people, the boy and the girl's father works in ceramics, all right? They didn't expound on it, but it has something to do with ceramics. Now, these spirits, these so-called war spirits or something like that, they were energized body. They were hyper spectral beings. They couldn't be seen with the eye. They had to have these spectral glasses. Spectral, all right? They use spectrograms or whatever to look at diamonds, to count the points. They also use spectrograms to see, when you look at any light, you can see the blue, the yellow, the red, and the green, I believe. But it's in a spectrum, but you can't see it. But if you just take a CD, all right, like a CD, and take off the silver, take off the part that holds the what's in it, and hold it up to a light, you will see the spectrum, because that is a diffractor grade, all right? The CD itself is a diffractor grade if you take off the silver, all right? And it's ways to do it. Take off the silver and you can instantly see the spectrum. We talk about the magnetic field. If you've seen the magnetic field, it'll trip you out. Where if you've seen the light spectrum, it'll trip you out, all right? You could put them on your glasses and ride down the street, and you'll see every light at night in front of houses got a certain what's the name to it. And you can also see one who has a different light. And you can also see the headlights on cars. If they have, all of them will have the same, but some will have different lights. And it's due to the spectrum in which those lights are cast. And what is those lights? It reveals the spectrum and the wavelength upon what that light is containing. A CD. Very easy, isn't it? All right, listen. We keep going. All right. Now, in this movie, he worked on with ceramics, all right? That's transformer shit, ceramics, all right? Ceramic, capacitor, high capacitor type shit, all right? But these hyperspectral beams were real fast. They could run past you and hit you, right? And they would make the body freeze, right? They would make the body freeze. Antarctica, they would make the body freeze, all right? And you would just fall over. You wouldn't even see these motherfuckers. They just bow, 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 just run at you and just hit your ass. Freeze. That's what the body would do, right? A freeze, flash the motherfucker, all right? Flash, freeze, whatever the fuck, all right? Now, nevertheless, check this out. So, but where the little boy and the girl were, they noticed the squad, the army squad, or the this group of soldiers, right? They looked out the window and they discovered that the place where they was surrounded by iron filings. Because the dude slipped in and he said, I spelled some of that shit, and he picked it out of his hand, and it was iron filings. Listen, iron, right? What is iron on the chemical atomic chart or table? Anyway, iron filings. Now these beings, once they made the spectral that they could see these beings out there, they couldn't get past the iron. They were talking about iron oxide in the atmosphere and iron oxide, right? But these hyperspectral motherfuckers couldn't get through the iron. They couldn't get through the iron. But eventually they figured it out. But they couldn't get through the iron. They was held at bay because of the iron filings. All right? Check this out. Go back to toner. early form of carbon powder and iron oxide, rust, toner, iron oxide. We talk about the red iron oxide outside, or dust, and they talked about it. They said some dust coming from West Africa or some shit, but it's come up to be iron oxide, and the red dwarf planet. Many names it has been called. Should be right next door, outside somewhere at this moment. Nevertheless, so this red iron oxide. But in the movie, it showed that the red iron oxide was preventing the hyperspectral beings from coming in attacking them. But eventually they got around it. But they also found out these spirits had, these hyperspectral beings didn't have a body because their body was on a base, and I believe the base was the moon. All right? And they found and discovered the bodies inside this base, hooked up to machines with pictures of them. And the only thing that was there was their neurological system.